sitting at 10-3, first in the AFC North. They have won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their last 8 games, and they do play the Philadelphia Eagles on the road this weekend. They will be without George Pickens potentially again versus the Philadelphia Eagles, but they do. This is another team that plays 3 games in 10 days. They play the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs moving forward, but the Pittsburgh Steelers move up in this week's power rankings, coming into number 3, moving up 1 spot, actually 2 spots into number 3. Pittsburgh Steelers.
This is another team like Minnesota. I keep thinking that the shoe's going to fall off, and it doesn't fall off. Yep. I still in agreement with Hoffy. I still think they are fugazi. I do think Pittsburgh at some point is going to shit the bed, but somehow every week they keep winning. And I think a lot of that is not necessarily Russ, but it's Tomlin, because Tomlin is putting them in the right position every week to win, like he does every fucking year. Like, you got to give him credit. Like Hoffy was talking about respect. I'm putting respect on Mike Tomlin's name because the dude does this shit every year. You got to put respect on it.
Yeah, I mean this team. I don't know how they're still pulling it off week after week, but we're gonna we're really gonna find out these next 4 weeks. They got Philadelphia coming this week, then they go to Baltimore. They then host Kansas City and Cincinnati, and Cincinnati hasn't been playing all that great.
That's rough.
Yeah, Cincinnati has been playing great, but it's a division game. They usually split the series with these 3 teams. That even consider the Browns. It seems like there's usually they split. So they might not even win a game the rest of this season.
Yeah. So there are many talking heads out there, right, that are saying the Pittsburgh Steelers are about ready to fall off. Right, they are getting ready to lose 3 games in a row. I do not foresee that happening whatsoever. I could see 2 games, right? I could see maybe the Ravens and then turn right around and they play the Kansas City Chiefs. But how much stock can we really put into these next 3 games? Because they are playing 3 games in 10 days. The Ravens are doing the same. Steelers, Texans, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Can we really put stock into these next 3 games, Mark?
Yes, because those are the important games before you go into the playoffs. Let's say you lose 3 games in a row, and then you're going to go into the playoffs like that. You're going to go in limping. That's not what you want. I know that's what Tomlin doesn't want. He doesn't want that.
Right. Hoffy?
Yeah, I mean, these next 4 games are your momentum builders for the playoffs. You don't want to go into the playoffs losing 3 out of 4. Even 2 out of 4 is a tough. You want to go into, if you can get 3 out of 4, they're gonna go in. They're gonna feel pretty confident, and I think that all of us will start to put some respect on the name, and they might be able to make some noise. But I don't know. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they, I don't want to say they play to their competition, because then these next 4 weeks they're going to play well and they're going to win. And I just don't see that happening. I think that, Russell Wilson is going to come back down to earth. This defense has been playing great all year. I think that, they're due for some off games.
Yeah. So the one thing that I can say is I have been high on the Pittsburgh Steelers since June, right? I thought they were going to be a very, very good team. I thought they're going to make a deep AFC playoff run. The main
Super Bowl run is what you were saying, man.
Yeah, I do believe they do have the potential to make it to the Super Bowl as long as they don't play the Ravens in the playoffs. But with that being said, the reason why I think they're going to win and they are the number 3 team is because their defense. Their defense is lights out. Their defense just keeps getting better and better and better. Yes, they had a couple off games, right? But the point of the matter is the defense is the heart and soul of that team, and that is why I have them at number 3. And John says, "Whoa, when the Eagles spank them, then what?" And I do not foresee the Battle of Pennsylvania being a blowout one way or the other. Mark, do you mean we will talk about this Saturday night, so don't give too much away? But do you see
it's not going to be a blowout? But I think Philly's going to win.
And honestly, John, if they do spank them, it is what it is. It is what it is, and they might drop a spot, or they might even move up a spot. You never really know. That's why you got to tune in every Tuesday to see what happens. And Laura says they do not belong that high. I'm questioning this spot. So you guys do not like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Laura does not like the Pittsburgh Steelers. John does not like the Pittsburgh Steelers in the number 3 spot. Mark, where should they be?
Maybe on the outside looking in.
Outside of the top 10 or top 5?
Top 10.
Oh, Hoffy.
I don't like this spot, but I think that's where they belong with their record. But I'm not sold on, I think this is another team that has, yes, they got a good win against Baltimore. But I think you look at their record, and I think a lot of their wins come against, teams that they should have beat. They beat Atlanta, Denver. The Chargers, will call that a decent win. If you want to call Denver a decent win, that's a flip-flop kind of game. But they lost to Indy. They lost to Dallas. They beat the Raiders. They beat the Jets. They beat the Giants. They beat the Commanders. They beat Baltimore. There's a good win. But then they lost to Cleveland. They, gave up 38 points to the Bengals. So of late, their defense has been giving up a lot of points. And then they just beat Cleveland. But they don't have a good win. But they haven't really played any good teams either. So I just don't think that they are a legitimate threat to these other teams that are in this top 5 when it comes, time, to play in the playoffs.
I definitely hear you, and I definitely feel you, and that is something that we have not really said much tonight about these rankings. Like, yeah, they're here, but they really haven't played anybody yet, and we could throw that against the Broncos, we could throw that against the Commanders, and we definitely could put that against the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. So I definitely understand that. James says the Eagles beat the dog snot out of Pittsburgh. Their shoes will fall off, but I'm just a hater, so there's that. Crazy they're ahead of Buffalo, though. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers would beat the Buffalo Bills head-to-head right now going into Week 15. That is why I have them ahead of there. And Jim Powell brings up a great point. Najee Harris isn't Jerome Bettis, isn't the bus. And he doesn't have to be because they got a 2-headed monster back there. You forget about Mark, what's his name? Josh Warren. Jalen Warren. Yep, Jalen Warren. He's might be better than Najee too. We'll be honest. If he would get the rock. So, and that's actually what Jim Powell just said, or sorry, James just said. Brody says, "What's the difference between the Vikings and the Pittsburgh Steelers? Steelers have a better defense. Steelers have a better running game. Steelers have a better quarterback. That's what the difference is between them and the Vikings." Mark, what are your thoughts about that?
You can't say
that. The defense, I don't know. I feel like the defense one is debatable. I feel like Minnesota's defense has played solid all year.
They've had a very good scheme
too, but I mean, I don't know. I think some of the schemes that the Vikings have came up with against certain teams, like, I don't know. I don't see the Steelers doing that.
Hoffy?
I think the Steelers have a better defense, but Mark touched on scheme. I think Brian Flores in the scheme of the Vikings defense makes them just as good as the Steelers. But I think the Steelers on paper have a better defense. But you can't say that Russell Wilson is, he's well more known than Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold's putting up better numbers and has played better this year.
Right.
So if we're going to talk about the better quarterback, I think Sam Darnold's a better quarterback. If you have, TJ Watt on your team, you can have Parkinson School for the Blind, the other 10 on your defense, and you're still going to be unbelievable. But yeah, I think what Brian Flores is doing with this defense and what he's scheming up is what makes this Vikings defense so special.
Yeah, and also just to add to that point as well is, yes, Sam Darnold is playing very, very good football right now. We just read the stats, better passing numbers than Jackson, more touchdowns than Josh Allen, and fewer interceptions than Patrick Mahomes. We saw those stats, we heard those stats, but when the Vikings do not do well in cold weather, because they're a pass-happy offense, let's just be honest, they're a pass-happy offense. Right now they're sitting at the 5th seed. They are going to have to go down to a cold weather team to play. Not in the first round, but in the second round. They're going to have to go to Philly. They're going to have to go somewhere cold to play, and I'll be worried about that moving forward. But coming in at number 3, guys, I do have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, a little bit of shakeup up at the top, guys.